Pedro from A&P-REACTS. I'm here today with Heidi from Dark Sarah. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Like I said just earlier when we pressed the button that let's go, it's really hectic at the moment. A lot of stuff happening, a lot of shippings happening, and my house is looking more like a warehouse than a house, and it's like working full time.
That takes me to the first thing I want to ask you about the crowdfunding. When did the decision to do a crowdfunding came about?
It was just actually when I started Dark Sarah, and I knew that I needed people to work music for me, like producing and mixing and mastering. I started counting like, okay, this will cost a lot of money. Where can I have this kind of amount of money when I don't have kind of any other albums or CDs that could, bring income? So my friend from Amber and Dawn, the bass player, Tommi Kuri, he said that it would be a good thing that if you thought about this crowdfunding thing, and it was really new thing back then. It was 2013, I think, and it wasn't that big thing yet. And I was like really scared about thinking about collecting money and starting my own business. But actually it was I wanted it so badly, this album, that I jumped bravely to this stuff, and it has been a lifesaver for us, I could say.
It really gave you guys the energy and the fuel, if you will, to get this album done the way you wanted to have it done.
Yeah, fuel is money. Yeah, exactly. It's like without our these crowdfunders, it wouldn't have happened, and many of our albums would have not be true at the moment. So I think it was really best thing for us to start as an independent band and stay an independent band for so long. Yeah.
From a conceptual perspective, how did Grim get started in your mind? How did you guys started working the details behind the story, the characters, and everything that goes into this record?
It was already bubbling in my mind for quite a while, when I think that it was during the time that I knew that the trilogy was about to end, and I had already been I didn't feel so related to Dark Sarah anymore. I felt that I was changing. I felt that I needed some change, and I was really happy actually. So the trilogy was about to end, but still because I'm playing kind of the character again, the protagonist. So I wanted to build up a kind of like continuing thing between this new character Luna and also Dark Sarah. So they are linked a little bit, I can reveal. But I've been watching a lot of these horror stories. I think American horror stories, one of my favorites. Not maybe plot ways, but it has a really cool stuff. And I was watching that, and I was watching some other, I don't remember what, but weirdly I was into horror phase in my life, even though I don't normally watch at all horror movies, because I get really bad nightmares and they are worse than the movies. but I kind of felt drawn to that kind of storytelling. But also I wanted to include a little bit like mystical and whimsical stuff, like we are grown to hear in Dark Sarah albums. So I think it was I wrote music for 2 years for this album, so it was a quite long time to build it up.
For Grim, did you guys, because I felt that the music and the concept, everything just connected perfectly well. So which always brings the question, it's almost like the chicken and egg, like which one came first? So the question I had in my mind was, did the sound drive the concept of the story, or did the story drive the concept of the sound?
I start everything, the building up the concepts from the title of the album. It has always been like mind mapping from the idea, and then I kind of have a really rough synopsis for the story in my mind already, like what kind of mood there is, what kind of characters there are, and so on. So I kind of have the basics in my mind, and then I start writing music, the demos. I write a lot of demos, and then I send them to our producer, to Mikko P. Mustonen, who has been working with us from the start. And he's a wizard. He's a like soundscape wizard. So from that point on, we start like co-writing based on my demos, and then we pick up the best songs. And because there are a lot of songs, we always need to kind of leave some good ones out too. But we do that in the way that so that the songs and their stories support the bigger storyline. So they kind of are born in hand. And of course, everything develops to the last spot when I have, everything is ready, and then I write the story, because I remember that I think it was on the second album or something, I had kind of written the story already, and then because you still need to build up a album which is has this kind of development in the musical story too. So you have to think about in what order you put them there. So it happened that I had written the album and also kind of spotted where the songs are, and it didn't fit so well, and we needed to make the decision how to kind of what way to do it so that the music is right or the story is right. But normally it goes with the music first, of course, because it's a music album.
Yeah,
but then,
it definitely becomes a little bit of a complicated process, because the track listing becomes really important. Otherwise, the story is kind of just like jumping like back and forth. It becomes almost like a Star Wars trilogy where you start in the middle and then you go forward and then you go backwards.
Yes, and that's exactly like that. And that's why I decided to always write the final story quite late, when almost the album is ready and everything, the track list is all ready, and then I still kind of file it up a little bit. Yeah.
I was going to say the album starts off with really the introduction to the main character, to Luna. How would you describe Luna as a character? Like, if you had to describe to somebody that person, how would you describe her?
Well, I think that like Dark Sarah and Sarah, and they both kind of developed through the whole trilogy, and when the people they met, they transformed her into something that I actually don't know what Luna will be, but definitely she is more a spicier person and more determined than Dark Sarah or Sarah was, because they were kind of the victims of circumstances, and kind of they both ended up being abused by the men in their lives, even though that wasn't my goal with this story, but it kind of became their fate. And I was a little bit like sick with being Dark Sarah at the moment when the trilogy ended, and I felt that it needed kind of this rebirth of the protagonist, and it's like a metamorphosis actually, because in the end of the Golden Moth album, Dark Sarah died, and she transformed into a golden moth, and she flew into space, and Dragon tried to save her by turning the time turner, and they both ended up into this time loop and to a different time. And then the golden moth came to Grimm, and it flew onto the witch's brim, and there the witch transformed her back to a human form, and then she needed to be placed to a tomb to wait for the right time for her to rise. So it's kind of, she was a person, and then she died, and she turned to a moth, and then she turned to a human, and then back to Earth, And actually, I like this kind of idea of going to the earth because it's kind of the Gaia, the Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so this album is opening up the curtain for this character. It's not completely telling her story. And also on this album, we can see her transformation, what she will become in the end of the album. And when I don't say what happens there, I think
you don't want to ruin the story. Like you don't want to ruin for.
I won't. This is kind of the basis where how she comes to the world, and where she also finds out her past, the previous life that she lived as a Dark Sarah, and what happened there, and how she was deceived by the dragon, but what she does with this information that we don't know yet. So yeah,
that's going to be the interesting part.
I think so.
How much of these characters represent at least a little piece of who you are?
I think a lot. In the beginning of Dark Sarah, I was writing a fictive person and fictive story, but because it has been quite many years that I've lived in this skin of Dark Sarah, it has kind of become part of me, and now I know when I look back that it actually has quite a lot of my own feelings and my fears and angst, those what you live in through your life, and I think that it was kind of like my growth story in that way. And also now that I've become Luna, I think that she's more me that I'm now. So let's see what happens to her and me during this time.
As you grow, so does the character grow. So the two are kind of like intertwined that way.
I think so. But even though I'm still writing really a fictive story, but of course my mindscapes, where I'm going and what kind of feelings I am. If I'm really melancholic, I write different kind of stories, and if I feel really powerful and certain, I think they affect to your writing style too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's impossible that what you write in your music is not affected by your own personal experiences in the world that surrounds you. One kind of drives the other.
Yeah, I think so. And even though I don't know how real writers like those novelists or authors do, how they start building up their characters. But I think that they must have different kind of sides that they know so well, so that they can build up so deep characters that who are so like different personalities. Yes, that's the word I was trying to find. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier the track listing and how important it is for the record to have that fluidity from track to track. That was one of the things that I really enjoyed about this album, is how you were able to connect the songs with each other. Some of them, the way one song ends is pretty much the way the other song starts. So it gives this perfect fluidity. It's almost like an audio book with different chapters, and then there's a little bit of a cliffhanger at the end of one chapter, picks up at the next one. When you guys were recording the tracks and putting it all together, was that something that you guys wanted to have to give that perfect fluidity, that red line across every single song on the record?
Yes, that's our main goal when we build up albums. And that's also what we did on the Golden Moth album too, and even more on that album. But compared to Golden Moth album, we wanted this to be a little bit easier to adapt. And also in that way that it's not that theatrical, but still it creates you the certain mood when you kind of put your own what are these called?
Oh, headphones.
Headphones. When you put on your headphones and you start listening to this thing, and then you completely are drawn from this world to another world, listening to a musical story. Even though you don't read the story, you kind of start building up your own images in your head, and that's what I wanted to kind of share with people, because that's what I always do. When I hear music, I see pictures.
Yeah, and I felt that on this album, and that was going to go into the next point I wanted to talk to you about, which was I felt that perhaps this album doesn't have as much of a symphonic power to it, but it has a more interesting atmospheric soundscape across every single track. So you're perhaps losing a little bit more of that cinematic feeling that you get from a pure symphonic metal album, but you're getting more of an atmospheric soundscape that it's more about the storytelling in a different kind of way. Was I right in looking at the record and feeling the record this way?
Yes, and we wanted to do a little bit change too in the production matter too. Because I've kind of also wanted to take a little bit break from the normal symphonic metal style with the large orchestrations. Of course, they are a big part of our music, but not in the center anymore. And actually, what has happened in the movie scene field, when you listen to soundtracks, they have also becoming a lot more like digital sounding soundscapes. I don't come up with any at the moment, but there are lots of different kind of soundtracks that are more like digital music than symphonic elements. And that's something that we wanted to kind of try out on this album, how to create still the same scenery with only, not only, but mainly using synths and also this kind of digital sounds. And I think that it kind of gave a really nice spark, new sounding spark to our music. And also, yeah.
It definitely gave a fresh vibe. And speaking of that fresh vibe and that synth music, the first song that I was like, oh, this is amazing. It was The Chosen One. In terms of, I absolutely love that track. And I was actually, when I went through the album, I was actually surprised you guys didn't pick that as one of the first singles. Because to me, that song was just really well put together. First of all, I love the 80s synthesizer sound vibe that track has. Like, I'm a big fan of 80s music. I grew up in the 80s. So that song to me like was absolutely like spark on. Can you give me a little bit of the behind the scenes behind that track? It's one of my favorites.
Nice to hear, because I've been really worried that no one points it out, because it was absolutely one of my favorites, and I was thinking that it might be one of our singles, but of course it's quite a long one. But for a single, it could have maybe been cut a little bit in the middle, but of course it loses something from its magic, of course. But still, really nice to hear. And I actually have grown into like this synth wave, like 80s, like this retro synth wave music. And this is a new find for me. I never knew that it existed, but somehow I ended up listening to it, and it has grown in me. And I think that the last ones, the demos I wrote for this album, I think that I was a little bit influenced by it, because because of course the programs I use, I always have only synths. I don't write with guitars. I don't play guitar and bass and drums. So I use synths and that kind of like sound banks. So maybe that's also one reason why they became there. But still, I think that I was a little bit influenced by it, and I loved the feeling, really popish feeling in the end, in the verses, but also how the choruses kind of grow from that to be really big and sounding like really. It's not that maybe power metal even.
Yeah, but also a little bit cinematic, almost like it makes this big sound, this big entrance.
Yeah, and it's actually like that. You asked about a little bit behind the scenes and story ways. It's an entrance. It's an entrance song. It's a kind of like a hymn to Luna, and because she has woken up, and the ravens have flown to her, and they give her the first orb, the first magical power, and she kind of revives herself with the magic and becomes alive. So in that way, it's really like that, and I feel that it's you can hear the hymn kind of like, and in the end, it's this Latin this kind of words, this rap. What is? How do you spell it? I don't know. But it's
yeah, almost like a narrator.
Yeah. In the end, it's in Latin, and it says Ave Nox, Ave Luna, and so on. So it's kind of hail night and hail Luna, and the resurrection of the night bird.
And then you guys are off to the races after that track. I just thought that song was just, it gave you a little bit of a synopsis in terms of what you're going to get from the rest of the album, because everything that you're going to get from the rest of the album, there's pieces of it into that song. So that song, it's really like a nice introduction to the record, because after that song, you're going to hear a little bit of everything throughout. So nothing is going to be completely surprising, but you're going to hear it in perhaps in a different packaging. But everything is included into that one track. So I thought you guys did a magnificent job with that song. That's why I was surprised to not make it to one of the singles.
Yeah, I think it's mostly, and on this album, I've changed a little bit my vocal technique, the style at least, and because the songs needed it. It wasn't that I could have sang with like this with operatic style through the album. I felt that this needed a little bit different kind of approach, and I practiced a lot, and I think that it was a good combo, I think. But on this song particularly, there's this popish sound in the verses, but then a pure operatic sound in the choruses, and I think it sounded quite nice in that way. Yeah.
I agree with you. And you already touched a little bit on something I wanted to ask you, which was about your vocals. I mean, we've been talking about everything but your vocals, and we can't finish this conversation without talking about that. I thought your vocals were magnificent on this record. And perhaps the thing that to me was magnificent about it was your different approach depending on the mood and the soundscape of each song. It's not like you went, at least this is my humble opinion after listening to the record, I didn't feel like you went with the same style across every song. This is how I'm going to sing, and this is how I'm going to sing every single song from beginning to end. To me, I felt like you had a different delivery, a different tone, a different approach with every single song in order to give the perfect atmosphere, the perfect mood to the story that you were telling on that track.
Yeah, I think so, and that was the aim. And of course, as a classical singer, and I've been kind of like keeping it really like almost like stubborn with my classical vocals. I'm a classical singer, and it needs to be enough, you know. But still, I feel that that's also one change in me. I graduated from university of singing, and I think that after that, I think that okay, now I can try something out. You know, I needed to kind of get to one point with my singing so I can safely start exploring it more out of the classical world, because the classical world is, you know, you have to be really good in that thing, that only one thing. And I felt that before that, I felt that I want to become good enough, you know, to be able to deliver what I wanted to deliver. So I think that there was many things actually in my personal life, and also my band life, and everything that are connected, and I felt that the time was right for many things on this album, and I'm really excited to hear what our fans are to think about this. So that if I know that some people feel that actually also the songs are a little bit lower for my voice. And it's, of course, it's for a soprano, it's always hard to sing lower voices if you're not a, you know, pure pop singer with the popish articulation and sound. So it's something that you need to practice a lot if you've been classical singer for almost 30 years.
Well, whatever amount of practice you did, it worked, because I really felt like you delivered great vocals on this album, and it really added value to the music and to the storytelling aspect. Because to me, when you have a record like this where each song is a piece of a big story, but each song is its own story within itself, you really need to adapt vocally to that story in order to bring it to life. You know what I mean? In order to paint a picture, so the people who are listening to it are not just listening to it, they can actually see what you're talking about.
Yes, and that's something that I kind of have needed to learn, to listen to vocal music like that, because that's also something that is really different when you are classical singer. How you use your voice and how you kind of create the same of course all the feelings and everything, but it's really different from this style of singing, and that's something you have to know first what to do with your voice. And I agree, I really love my vocals on this album at the moment, at least. It always changes. It always changes. It's like 1 year is like, okay, I can't listen to this anymore.
You can't be too self-critical. The more you listen to it, probably the more things you're going to find that you would have done differently.
Yeah, but that's how I think that many singers are like that. Okay. Because you are developing all the time. You're never ready, and I think that that's something that why we are so critical about it, because we kind of feel that, okay, this part would need to be a little bit better, and this part I need to practice that a little bit. But that's also really something that I love about singing. It's not that you can just sit down and put the TV on and say that I'm ready, I don't need to practice anymore. Yeah.
You're always evolving. You're always evolving.
Yeah, many ways. Yeah.
So I want to just remind everybody, the album comes out July 17th on Napalm Records. Don't forget to go pick it up, Grim. And before we go, one last question for you. With the whole coronavirus thing and festivals being canceled and restrictions on shows and all of this stuff, how are you guys planning to promote the album once it comes out to the fans on July 17th?
Yeah, we have an album release show on the August 7th in Helsinki. And now we know that it's in August, every place should be opened like normally. Of course, we don't know what happens, if anything can change still, but at the moment it seems like there will be a live audience, but it's also going to be a live stream worldwide. So people who have never seen us live and would have wanted to, I know that we have lots of fans over the seas and everywhere around the world. I think that this will be really nice thing for them to join us on this special occasion and join the party. Yeah, and I think that we try to arrange something like this kind of chit chat at some point anyway. Let's see, but of course we know that there is always a lot of things to do before the show for us, and maybe after that too. But we try to have this some kind of meet and greet maybe. Something like
well, it's exciting at least to be able to see you guys perform, and it's going to be even better to see that there's going to be people in the audience. It's always kind of strange, I'm sure, for you as an artist to be performing in front of an empty room, knowing that there's thousands and thousands of people watching at home. It's kind of weird,
Yeah, that's true, and I'm really happy that the situation is getting back to at least towards the normal situation. I'm hoping and praying that it will stay like that, but of course it's a really nice thing to start having shows again and people can meet each other. Yeah, but let's see. Yeah, but other than that, we don't have anything booked yet, and that's because of the virus that came in such a critical moment for us, because I think that many people were starting to kind of cancel their shows, and nobody was at least booking any shows. So in that way, nobody hasn't booked us yet.
Well, if things at least are getting better in Finland, at least you guys will be able perhaps to do some shows across Finland. The rest of Europe is still kind of a question mark, but I know things in Finland are getting a lot better. So We were planning on traveling to Finland this summer again, as we were there last summer, but because of everything that is happening, we're kind of stranded in North America. So it is what it is.
Yeah, it seems that it's really bad up there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on a better note, the album comes out once again July 17th. Something to look forward to, something to put a smile on everybody's faces.
Definitely. Let's not think about any virus.
Yeah. And you have boxes to pack and ship, so life is busy. Life moves on. Life moves on.
And lots of things to do, and lots of interviews, and really nice interviews, and everything. And here's the Grim poem book. I have to show it to you because it's signed. Yeah, signed by me, and you can find it on our web store. And remember to read it with the album. And actually, I know that it's going to be released in this kind of e-book. Is it e-book? This digital,
e-book, yeah.
Stores. I think it's all around the world on the 17th.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it's and it's not so many euros, so it's affordable. Yeah, so it's remember to read it too. It's a poem book, and this time I decided to write our story into poem book style. So let's see.
So what I'll do is I'll put some links in the description of the video. So the folks that are watching us talk right now, they can go to the description of the video below and click on one of those links and pick up the book and pick up the album and find out more about the band and the live stream as well. I'm going to put all of that information on the description of the video so people can watch you guys in August during their live stream and pick up the book July 17th once the album comes out on Napalm Records. Heidi, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. And today, actually, the ticket sales has opened for the show.
Oh, so people can pick up the e-ticket already.
Already, yes, both. Right. This was really nice, and thank you for so nice reviews. I've watched them many times.
Oh, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. We're two fools on the internet, but thanks for watching us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, two lovely fools.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day and best of luck with the release on July 17th.
Yes, thank you very much, and have a nice day.
You too.
Yeah, bye-bye.